We're on. Okay. Good evening. Uh-oh. Okay, we'll do that. Okay. Okay. Well, we'll do that first. Okay. Uh, I'm sorry for the delay, but we'll get right to it. I welcome everyone to the Board of Adjustment meeting Wednesday, December 19th, 2018, and it is exactly 6:40, correct? Okay. Uh, We'll call, may we have a call to order? I'm sorry, if we all stand up for Pledge of Allegiance. Da, 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 da. Well, our new board member, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? The flag is right there. Right, the pole.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay. All right, roll call, please. Here.
Here. Here.
here.
Thank you. As first order of business, would you like to swear him in? Jennifer is going to do it.
If you please raise your right hand and repeat after me the following oath of office. I state your name,
I, Emmanuel Genti,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support, protect, and defend
that I will support, protect, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the state of Florida,
and the state of Florida,
that I will,
that I will,
in all respects,
in all
You
respects,
need to speak into your microphone.
in all respects,
observe the provisions of the Charter
observe the provisions of the Charter
and the ordinances of the City of North Miami,
and the ordinance of the City of North Miami,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties of the office
the duties of the office
as board member of the Board of Adjustment.
as board member of the Board of Adjustment.
So help me God.
So help me God.
You are so sworn.
Okay. Just a housekeeping we had to get out of the way. With that being said, Mr. Cook, would you please explain the whole procedure?
I'll
Or
go ahead and
our
read.
lawyer is going to do it. Okay.
So this is an explanation of the quasi-judicial process with regard to the following public hearings. Please be advised that the following items on the agenda are quasi-judicial in nature. The applicant or duly authorized agent for the applicant must be present. If no representative is present, the application will be tabled to the next Board of Adjustment meeting. When the petition is announced, the applicant or his or her agent shall approach the microphone and state his or her name and address for the record. Any interested party wishing to speak on any item may approach the podium after the board has opened the public hearing. Each party shall approach the microphone and state his or her name and address for the record, shall address his or her comments to the board. Each party shall speak for not more than 3 minutes in order to provide for order and time for other interested parties to address their concerns and comments to the board. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that said, we will administer the quasi-judicial oath for anyone who wishing to talk on any of these items tonight, whether for or against. You need to be sworn in. So,
Yep.
please stand up.
So if you plan to speak to the board, except for attorneys who are not giving testimony, stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth and the whole truth and nothing but the truth in these proceedings? I do.
Thank you. With that being said, amendments to the agenda.
If I may, Madam Chair, I would like to introduce our new staff member, Amanda Murray. She just
Hi,
started.
Amanda.
It's been 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks now. She originally came through as an intern, and subsequent to that, reviewed, and now she's serving as the senior planning tech for the city. And also, she just graduated from Florida Atlantic University with a master's in urban and regional planning.
Good, welcome.
Welcome.
Good, good.
With that in mind, Madam Chair, we do have some changes to the agenda. Some have been noted here. We had advertised a variance for Copper Bridge for parking at at a property that is not addressed because it is vacant. That has been removed from the agenda. We also had an advertisement for a variance for the telecommunication tower, which is also on public land. That has been deferred or removed from the agenda as well due to advertising error on our part. To give you the full breadth and depth of it, it was originally submitted as a variance to allow for a deviation in the height, whereas required 90 feet for one user on a tower. They have built a tower of 120 feet. Unbeknownst to me, with further review of the LDRs, that deviation is allowed through the exception process. So since it was advertised incorrectly, we withdrew it from the agenda so it can be reprocessed as a special exception.
Okay.
Those are the two.
Thank you. We'll do approval of the minutes. But before we do that, we have 2 minutes to approve, which is August 15th, 2018, and November 15th, 2018.
I'll second.
Just one,
I think I was here.
yeah, we could take that, but on the August 15th, no, on the August 15th, just a minor correction. I do read them.
And I was also here.
Page 3 of 4, where it says motion to deny was made by Commissioner McDermott. So we just need to make sure, because I think they get confused in typing. So, board member, you know, you don't want the responsibility, right, Mike?
Was I on this? I think I was here.
Since you're making corrections, maybe you should vote on them separately? Just to
Okay.
clarify the record.
So that would be for August 15, 2018. Was there anything that needed, I'm sorry?
No, I wasn't here.
No, no. Okay, so. As corrected, thank you.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, now, motion for the November 15th?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so we will start with the first case, which is V-05-18.
Madam Chair. So there is an item of board member communications. And
sorry.
it's been requested that we actually do that exercise tonight because there have been discussions by
communication?
some members.
Okay,
So, and just to make sure the new member is familiar, because these are quasi-judicial proceedings, discussions outside of today's hearing are considered ex parte communications. State law allows cities to allow board members to do that if there's disclosure of those communications. So if you've had a conversation with anybody on any of the items on the agenda, you need to identify which item it is, who that communication was with, and the subject matter of the communication. So you can begin.
any communications from the board?
No.
Yes, I would like.
No,
Yes, I would like to disclose. I had several residents of the surrounding area contact me and give me. They had received the notice and give me
Which
their
item?
of the item that we're hearing right now, V-0518, and give me their opinions and concerns about the item.
Okay.
All right.
Is your mic on?
I had the same contact on the same item from various citizens.
Okay,
Okay, all
thank
right.
you.
None from me.
None.
Okay.
None.
All right, with that being said, V-05-18, special exception for drive-through, 13400 Northeast 3rd Court. And Mr. Cook, you're on.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If I can get the PowerPoint to start. Okay, there we go. As stated, this is, for item 1, it's a special exception to allow for a drive-through for Wendy's located at the address of Well, it was working fine before the meeting, now here we are.
There it is.
Okay. So it's located at the address of 13400 Northeast Third Court. As stated, this is a large parcel consisting of approximately 90,000 square feet, 2.06 acres. Specifically dealing with the Wendy's, you're looking at a site of about 2,500 square feet with accessory drive-through. It's integrated in a retail complex which encompasses in construction almost completed a dollar store, and it has some other commercial uses that will be at the south of the property as well. This item did have a previous review for the Family Dollars, as you see at this site, that went to the Development Review Committee, and it was approved. As stated, you have a special exception here for this evening. Why am I going this way? Praise God. And this is a special exception specific to Division 1, Section 5-101E, that permits a drive-through within a C1 commercial district by special exception. This is an overview of the area. As you can see, it's indicating the different zones that we have associated with the property. You have to the east, you have a residentially zoned. You have to the north, you have a residentially zoned, and you have to the south, residentially zoned, and you have to the west, commercial zone. These are the criteria that we reviewed the special exception under. With that in mind, we looked at the first criteria. Is the use listed a special exception, and the exception where it is properly indicated? Yes. Pursuant to Article 5, as stated, Section 5-101E, the drive-through is accessory use that is permitted in this district by a special exception. There is appropriate provisions for access facilities adequate for the estimated traffic and public streets and sidewalks, et cetera, and safety with traffic congestions. Yes, we believe this is so. The property is accessed from 135th. The drive-through is adequately oriented within the property. It has more than 100 feet of area. It allows for the appropriate stacking distance for the vehicles, so it will not cause any congestions or overflow into the right-of-way or into other parcels that is associated with the site. There are adequate parking areas on the site. Yes, it is. The parking area requires 18 parking spaces. They are providing 18 parking spaces. There is suitable landscaping and fencing along the property. They are imposing the appropriate landscaping and buffering on the site, specifically dealing with the drive-through. They have buffering there, and they have other landscaping that meets the code. The caveat to this is that the required buffering landscaping is provided under a separate site plan approved for construction and maintaining outlying portion of the site, i.e. the Family Dollar area. And the west retail use is going to provide some landscaping as shown on their site plan, whereas the permit includes required perimeter buffering and other planning have been shown in the site plan, and we find it to be adequate. The proposed special exception is reasonable in terms of logical efficiency and economical extensions of public service. Yes, no extension of services necessary such as water and sewer lines are currently available at the site, and so will not need any extension of any of those services to be accessed at the property. The proposed special exception will constitute an appropriate use in the area and will not substantially injure or detract from the use of the surrounding properties or from the character of the neighborhood. We believe that, yes, that is the truth. It will not do any of those things. The proposed special exception for the drive-through will constitute an appropriate use in the area and will not injure or distract from the surrounding properties of the neighborhood. It is located in a capacity and being properly buffered to mitigate any impact it would have on any adjacent property owners, adjacent properties. The traffic is concealed within the property. The proper stacking has been done for the property to allow for the drive-through, as I stated earlier, not causing any spillover into adjacent property or into the right-of-way like that. So that is why we have said this is an appropriate use. Are there any open code violations for the site? No, there is not. With it in mind, we have the conclusion. We approve this, we recommend approval for the item with one condition. That condition being that prior to the Development Review Committee approval, the applicant needs to provide proof of the cross-access in the, with the other properties such as the Family Dollars and the properties to the south. This is a whole new site. When the applicant gets up, he can get into the specificities of this cross-access and how they are going to orient this property, specifically how they are going to do a replat to divest the property from the other uses, and that is going to spearhead a cross-access with the other properties with that replatting of the property. And that's the presentation as it is.
Thank you. Okay. I'm sorry. Mr. Cook? If you need clarification.
Yeah, I just wanted some clarification. What do you mean when you're referring to cross-access? Can you explain what you mean by that?
So, yes. Let's see, so you have, the site is, right now is one site, holistic. You have the Family Dollars, you have the Wendy's, and you have retail use to the site. They're all under one ownership as it is. Mr. Proctor can go into more details. So when you have a situation like that and he's getting ready to replat to separate it from it, I would need permission from the other property owner to be able to have access to go through and get in and out. And they have an agreement that they're working with the city to do that.
All right. Please state your name and address.
Good evening. Jerry Proctor is my name. I'm an attorney with office at 9130 South Dayland Boulevard in Miami. I represent Abreu Development. Abreu is the controlling entity of Citadel Plaza, which is the property owner of this property. And Citadel Plaza owns not only the Wendy's portion of the property, but the Family Dollar as well. Eduardo Cacachi is with me to my left. He's going to show you the site plan as I address some of the items, and we're both here to answer questions along the way. Eduardo is the architect for Wendy's. Madam Chair and members of the board, we are here, as Mr. Cook stated, under Article 5, Division 1 of your code for the drive-through component within the Wendy's restaurant. As Mr. Cook indicated, this property is zoned C1. It has been zoned as such for many years, and it is already developed in part with a Family Dollar store, which is nearing completion, and a retail building in the back or south side, which is also nearing completion. This Wendy's restaurant, if approved and placed as we hope, will be in the corner, directly adjacent to the intersection of 135th Street and 3rd Court. This would be the southwest corner of that intersection, and again, it is zoned C1. This property is adjacent to multifamily, Home for the Aged to the east, a 4-story condominium to the north, and as Mr. Cook indicated, a commercial to the west along 135th. 135th is a major artery in this area of the city, and as such, the city has designated it not only for commercial but for transit-oriented development, and we believe that we have a plan and a use that comports with the code, and we'd like some indulgence to go through that, understanding that there may be interested citizens here I'd like to go through it as thoroughly as I can. As Mr. Cook indicated, we have one building, 2,560 square feet, one story, a Wendy's building at the corner of this commercial property. We have a 10-car stacking area for the drive-through that wraps around the building. And as I hope you can see in the site plan, maybe if Mr. Kirkacci can walk it forward a little bit, what I hope you can see is that the building and the drive-through is well spaced from any property line. It is easily accessible from both 135th, and then you have a secondary exit on Third Court. You don't have any kind of exit near the or entrance near the intersection to disrupt the intersection. We have suitable and really plentiful landscaping along the east of about 9 to 10 feet, about 15 feet of landscaping in the front along 135th, and we have a space of about 55 feet between the right-of-way and the drive-through of between Third Court and the drive-through area. We have the swale area, we have our landscaped area, our parking area, a drive aisle, and then you have the drive-through. The drive-through, and I'm going to try to focus on that along the way here as best I can, the drive-through is oriented north and south to the extent that there may be and will be customers in the evening with their lights on. Those lights will be oriented north and south. They will point north toward 135th. They will not point into the residential property to the east, and they will be well spaced from that area. I'll address the question that came up already about the cross-access. There will be cross-access not only physically but in terms of the proper agreements between the Wendy's parcel and the remainder of the commercial property. Those will be done by what the city calls a covenant in lieu of unity of title. That's a provision in the city code that allows commercial properties in particular to have different owners and to have shared parking and shared access so that they function in an integrated manner. They don't wall themselves off from one another, don't create extra drive cuts along the street or do something that would be damaging to the public. This will function as one harmonious shopping center, even though the plan at the moment is to have two property owners once this is developed and finished. When I talk about an integrated development, I think you'll see, I hope you'll see, the Wendy's building and the already existing Family Dollar building are very much aligned with one another, maybe just a couple of feet separate in terms of their relationship to 135th. This is something that the staff wanted to see. They wanted to see the alignment, the shared parking, so that this functions smoothly as really as one unit and one shopping center. And they wanted the buildings to be fairly close to 135th. And so that's what we've done. We have the buildings up on the north side of the property with just one aisle of traffic moving back and forth between the buildings and the right-of-way of 135th Street. We have an area for customers to sit outside and enjoy the weather, an area that I'll ask Mr. Carcacci to illustrate along 135th. It is directly in front of the Wendy's. It's a feature that the staff requested and that we provided to provide some improved relationship between the building and the use and the street. We have pedestrian connectivity between the building and this area. We have our front door along the north side of our building. So this is oriented and really illustrated, and I'll ask Mr. Carcacci to show the elevation in a way that fronts and integrates with the street, has appropriate windows and appropriate scale with awnings and such. And we've made some changes along the way, but this is really essentially as staff has requested.
Jerry, can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
My understanding of the application is it's solely
Okay.
for the drive-through, that
Okay.
the building itself, the restaurant, is a permitted use. Is that correct, Mr. Cook?
That is correct.
Okay, so I know you're trying to put it in context, but I didn't want anything to be ambiguous,
Okay.
that the request is for the drive-through.
Okay. Let me address the standards in the code for the drive-through. They are in your staff report. Mr. Cook addressed them, but I'll try to hit the high points. Is there appropriate access? We have one access point along 135th and one along 3rd Court. There is not, and that's for the entire center. There's not a congestion factor where we're putting multiple access points. And we really don't even have any access points within the Wendy's parcel itself. But we're going to have the cross-access so that people can get in and out and can serve and reach the drive-through. And as Mr. Cook mentioned, there's 10 cars in the drive-through. They're well spaced from any right-of-way and well spaced from any neighboring property. Is there adequate parking? Yes, there's adequate parking on not only the Wendy's portion, but the shopping center as a whole. Each parcel has adequate parking in terms of the code, and there is cross-access in the event that there is a day of congestion, perhaps a holiday day where cars that might be visiting the shopping center can park on the Wendy's parcel if they would like. But there is adequate parking individually and collectively for the property. Is there adequate landscaping? Yes, I've illustrated not only the landscaping, but the amounts which are in excess of code, and really the coordination of that landscaping, as you see, throughout the whole property, not just the Wendy's part. Is it an appropriate use in the area? We believe that it is. It's not only allowed by the code, but we think the drive-through is not only an integral component of this restaurant, or most restaurants, but we think it fits very nicely and compatibly with the area. It's well spaced. It doesn't orient in any way to the residential area. It points outward in terms of lighting and such toward 135th, not toward the residential area. Those are the standards in your code. We think this is a good application. We have no problem with staff's condition that we have cross-access. That's been the whole intent from the beginning, and we have no problem with that. Madam Chair, if with the permission of the board, I would reserve some time for rebuttal and certainly try to answer any questions that you have. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. With that being said, I will now open public hearing. Anyone who would like to speak on this item may come forward, whether you are for it or against it, and please understand that we can only give you, is it 2 minutes?
2 minutes.
Hmm?
2 minutes.
2 minutes. 3? Oh, okay, well. I see it here as. Well, you can sort of like, maybe as the person is ending, then you can come. And since there are 2 lectern there, so maybe one person on this side and one on that side, okay?
Madam
And-
Chair.
Yes,
Yes, before they start, I'd like to just make a comment about citizen testimony that might
Yes.
help. So, under Florida case law, these kinds of applications are considered quasi-judicial, which means the board has to make decisions based upon the facts presented. The courts have interpreted citizen testimony to be perfectly permissible and meet the standard, which is called substantial competent evidence, as long as it is what is called fact-based. Mere generalized statements of opposition and opinion are to be disregarded, but fact-based testimony is not. So if there's a question about whether your testimony is based on fact or is just you don't like the application, you should err on the side of providing facts that justify your position. Thank you.
Okay. Please state your name and address before you start.
Okay. Hi, Dion Deans, 13390 Northeast 4th Court, North Miami. I am against this building. I guess the permit for the Wendy's itself has been put through, but the drive-through is the one thing that's stopping this from happening. Hopefully, we will stop it from happening. Fact is, the fact that there's a Wendy's stuck right in between two schools, when we're battling childhood obesity, and we have a school within a quarter of a mile walking distance to one school, and a quarter mile to another school, is very strategic on their part, mind you. Great for business, not great for our children of North Miami. I think we should be focusing on our children, not on the dollar. Because at the end of the day, what are we going to have? We're going to have sick children. I don't care about Wendy's. I care about the children. We have, okay, in England, they're banning the buildings of these fast food restaurants for that exact reason, because they care about their children. You are not allowed to build a fast food junk restaurant within a quarter of a mile of any school, and that's going into effect as fact the fall of 2019. I have lots of opinions at this point. I guess I can't say them, so I'll keep them to myself. But obviously, I believe traffic is an issue. People are going to come from all over, every direction. There aren't the proper turns. The reason you probably don't have the ordinance for the drive-through is because it's not meant to be a fast food restaurant. They shouldn't be there. I mean, there's enough of them. Put something healthy there. Think about the children. Think about everybody in that neighborhood. I just think it's just a very, very, very bad idea. You know, think about us. Think about our children. Don't think about Wendy's. They'll be fine. Wherever they go, they will be fine. So let's think about us and our children of North Miami. Thank you.
Ma'am?
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Eileen Bicaba. I live at 13350 Northeast 3rd Court. I am the closest resident to this construction. I've lived there for more than 20 years, that's a fact. And we were completely surrounded by empty land, which I completely understand is there are going to be changes and there are going to be development. However, I do believe that it should not infringe upon the surrounding community. All right? Now, there is now a large wall near my building, near my house, and that wall separates my property from theirs. I disagree with the city's opinion or that there is adequate traffic control for this reason. When I first moved in, we were allowed to make a left turn onto 135th. It is a fact that today we can't. And the reason we can't is for two reasons: an increase in traffic and an increase in accidents. Being the first house at that location, I hear all the banging of the cars at that location. And the city has done, and the development and the county has done nothing to change the traffic flow there. You still can only make a right turn from 3rd Court onto 135th. How can you possibly put a major development at that location and tell me that it's not going to affect traffic on my street? I live right next to them, and they are doing all the construction, and there are times I have problems leaving my driveway and trying to back out right now, and they haven't even opened. Now, number two, Fountainhead is right on the, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the location. Fountainhead is on east of the 135th, of 3rd Court. and the new development is on the west of Third Court and 135th, all right? We currently have trash and all kind of problem flowing from the fountainhead into our yard. So please don't tell me more development that doesn't cause any of that change is not gonna come into, it's just more that will bring more trash into our area. Now, in terms of the traffic and the light, there is no light there. All right, so what do you think are the people are gonna do if they wanna go west on 135th? They can't go west from Third Court. They can't go west from the development. That's a no left turn area. They are gonna come down Third Court in order to do it and go through the neighborhood.
Wind it down.
Okay, it's very clear that's what they are gonna do. Third Court is a very small street. It only runs from 131 to 135. My daughter grew up on that street, and now we're gonna have that problem.
Okay.
Speed, you put speed bumps on 4th and other areas and not on our street, so the traffic is being diverted to our street, so keep that in mind.
All right, but we gotta wind
Thank
it
you.
down. Thank you. Sorry. Okay, keep it down. Come on, guys, because we're wasting time that way.
Hi, Faraz Jarwa. I live on Third Court, 13310 Northeast Third Court. I feel a lot of attention is on 135th. Honestly, we live on a very small street, not lit, no sidewalks. I can't even walk my dog. Sometimes the flying car would come through. So I understand the idea, but there is an exit from this shopping center on Third Court. I would not believe that would not create major problems, more accident, traffic congestion on our street. We have barely any lights at night. You can barely see anything at night. There's like maybe 3 lights on a whole street. Very underlit, and traffic is going to be a major problem. Definitely against it. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Teresa Lewis. My name is Teresa Lewis, and where I live is actually facing...
Address.
Oh, 13345 Northeast 3rd Court. And where I'm living is actually facing the business. And what happened is that practically every week there's an accident right there. And I always rush out to the gate. Even last week there were 2 cars. And I'm not saying because I know that a lot of people, it's going to be convenient for a lot of people that live close by. I'm not saying that. You know, we're just saying that if we just need this to be in control, we've got to have it controlled, and we know we're going to have a lot of noise. And like I said, we know we're going to have a lot of litter, people throwing, you know, so it's going to be very bad for us. But if I can see an accident once a week, I can imagine when the business is open what it's going to be. And that's what we're asking for, just to control the traffic. So I say.
Thank you.
Hello, Carmelo. I live at 12530 Northeast 4th Avenue. So I
Full
am
name?
close.
Full name?
Carmela Furman.
Thank you.
I live close to the area where the Wendy's is planned. I'm on 4th Avenue. But I just wanted to bring to light a few things, as well as basically reiterate what everyone has said prior to me coming up here. I have about 15 fast food restaurants within a 4-mile radius of where I live. There are 2 Wendy's already within 4 miles of that radius where I live already. I think a drive-through is going to create, like everyone has said, traffic, because it's not just 135th. It's our whole neighborhood is used as a shortcut for everyone. Everyone speeds from 135th to 125th. People are speeding from Northeast 6th to like get to 4th to get to 125th to go, you know, it's just people are crossing our neighborhood, and I work from home, so I see it all day. Also, trash. I'm always picking up McDonald's, Taco Bell, Dollar General, Presidente, constantly. So that's not going to get any better. I mean, I'm out there cleaning up trash basically every Tuesday, as the North Miami program has created a cleanup task force. So participating in that. And I also think that Wendy's late night menu is going to be an issue for the neighborhood. I mean, they're open till what, 2 a.m., 1 a.m.? So I don't think any of us would appreciate that Monday through Friday or Saturday and Sunday. Thank you.
Thank you. Ma'am, go ahead.
Hi, good evening. My name's Celeste Davis. I live at 430 Northeast 132nd Terrace. And I just want to support my neighbors because I have many of the same viewpoints, that the Wendy's has a late night drive-through, which directly is addressed by having the drive-through there. So we're talking about late nights, and you do not easily access 135th Street. I know because I have a hard time trying to turn on 135th, and I don't. And so we're talking about late night traffic that is going through what is a residential area that we'd like to stay quiet, not noisy, and not trashy. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Steve Kivett. Live at 13241 Northeast 3rd Court. I rent from a homeowner who owns 2 properties on that street. In fact, he's highly disappointed that this has even been tabled. He wasn't aware that there's a meeting, so he's unfortunately not able to attend. In fact, we have families that have children that live on our street, young children that play in the front yards. I have family and friends that visit from time to time. They bring kids as well. Because there are no speed bumps on our street, traffic has a tendency to come speeding through there. And this is necessarily going to mean more traffic, which is more dangerous for our kids. I noted that there was an analysis. I'm not sure who conducted the analysis. I would suggest that it's highly speculative that the sewage and traffic systems are sufficient to sustain the additional traffic and additional sewage issues. Thank you.
Okay, Jose Rivera, I live on 3rd Court.
No,
The gentleman-
full address, full address.
13325 Northeast 3rd Court.
Okay. Thank
The
you.
gentleman stated that traffic isn't going to be bad. It's going to be horrendous. You're going to have traffic coming from the east, and there's no, you can only make a right. So they're going to try to come down that street to come into the exit they put on 3rd Street. And that's, to me, that's the biggest entrance and exit that they have. I come from Memorial Highway when I get off of work, and it's a nightmare already. Now you're gonna put a Wendy's with a drive-through, and then you got a dollar store. You're creating havoc on my street, where I've been there 25 years, and it's been nothing but quiet. I have my neighbors, their kids play out there in their lawn, have a good time, and now with all this traffic, isn't that a little dangerous for the kids now, that they can't even play on their own grass out there? It's horrendous. I don't understand why you want to put a Wendy's in a residential area and create even more havoc on the streets. He's wrong. He don't live on my street. He stands up here and he says what he says. Oh, we got this and the traffic is gonna flow by. We've been looking at these statistics and this. He don't live on my street. He don't see me come home every day and what I gotta wait on the light to change of all the traffic that's there. If I'm the 5th car, I gotta wait 2 times just to make a left. So you don't think people are gonna go down Memorial Highway at the stop sign, make a left, go down to 3rd Court, and come up. So I'm gonna get hit from that end and from 135th Street.
Okay.
And like I said, my neighborhood has always been nice and quiet, no traffic, nighttime. You go outside, it's quiet. The only people that come by are the people who live in my neighborhood. I think it's wrong to put this Wendy's there.
Thank you.
That's it.
Hold off. We're wasting time. And before anyone else speaks, because I know a few of you have come in, if you didn't take the oath, please make sure that you take the oath before you say anything on the item.
Sir, you can lift the microphone up.
Good evening.
Anyone who did not take the oath, who was not here when the oath was administered?
Raise your right hand. Anybody else who hasn't been sworn in? Do you swear to tell the truth and whole truth and nothing but the truth in these proceedings?
Yes.
Thank you.
I knew there was a bunch. Okay, all right.
Good evening. My name is Victor Vigano, and together with my girlfriend Lori Langrib, we bought a house on 3rd Court, actually 131st Street.
Full address?
3rd Court, 131st, 385 Northeast 131st Street.
Thank you.
When we moved in, we did not expect the urbanism to develop the way it did, and I think that Wendy's, but more specifically the drive-through, would be detrimental to our feeling of residential in the area. We did not expect it to be more congested for all the reasons that everybody already stated. More traffic, there's already a lot of accidents in that corner. As the lady was saying it, almost every week we see it, probably even more often. The fact that there is an exit or entrance on 3rd Court, detrimental. It's a residential. I understand that it's allowed, but this is an exception, and I don't think it will be acceptable. It goes into the evening, into the night. Everybody would like to keep a nice sleep at night, and if it goes into the evening, into the night, cars driving around, once again, not residential. And the kids, the children, I mean, to school, all that obesity problems. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and I see a lot of residents out there who'd like to speak, and I hear it, and I understand free speech. We come out there, but in the essence of time, because it seemed like everyone who comes up, they're basically saying the same thing, and I just wanted to ask: was there anyone who had something a little bit different to add to what's already being said? Okay, all right.
Jim
Go ahead.
Garrett, 11610 North Bayshore Drive. On fast food establishments in this city, I'm going to go back historically. When Wendy's first came here, they wanted to first come on at 6th Avenue and 135th Street. Because how I know that was my math teacher, Jim Sickler, had all the parents on open house night upstairs in his math class trying to raise the $25,000 for the franchise fee. So it was supposed to go in that empty lot. Second, they decided to go on Biscayne and at 123rd, off of Biscayne, right next where Old Crip and O's used to be, the round table. They did go there. The loudspeaker, when it was put in, the drive-through, it was heard in Keystone Point down 124th Street. Has anyone thought about the loudspeaker at this place at 2 or 3 a.m. in the morning going into a residential neighborhood? Number 3, you're talking about an intersection where the roads go different ways, and a local K through 8 school, what used to be the Knights of Columbus, but now is Raul Martinez Aspira School, and you're talking about the traffic around that school in the morning and in the evening. What we're doing, we're adding more to the congestion. It's going to spill into the residential neighborhoods, or even into Bree Swept. We're going to have probably an increase in the police presence out there after 11 p.m. to about 3 a.m. Has anyone looked at that? Or 7-Eleven on 6th Avenue and a McDonald's there, and Burger King on 123rd Street. Has anyone looked at what a fast food restaurant does in this city and how it impacts this city? And the noise and the traffic. That's my conclusion. I don't think this is proper for North Miami. This is not the industry we should be going for. We should be preserving our residential neighborhoods, and we should be attracting different types of businesses in this city that brings in employees that make real money. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Renee Bicava. I live at 13350 Northeast 3rd Court, which is the closest building to the Wendy's. I believe that no one has mentioned the fact that the nursing home, there are always ambulances going through there because of the elderly people who live in that area. And the fact that the Wendy's will increase traffic there and you'll have ambulances coming through, that will be a major problem that no one has brought up or considered yet. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mike Hill. I live at 13075 Griffin Boulevard. I live on the corner of 131st and Griffin, which is a rock's throw from this development. And this is not a commercial area. The entire area is residential. All the street I live on, all the way from Northeast 6 all the way down past Aspera, that is all residential neighborhood, and it is horrendously planned. And so this development sits there. There is, if you come west on 135th, there is no turn lane to go left into this space. And you can say you're going to put a double yellow line, but if you've been to the Northeast 6 Publix,
They don't care.
everybody cuts right over that double yellow line. And they're going to go, and they're going to stop and back up traffic all the way down that lot. On the flip side, everybody cuts through our neighborhood. Everybody does, because nobody wants to wait on Northeast 6 or 125th or 135th. And if you've been to the that Ross parking lot, the Ross on Biscayne and 125th, and you see there's a Burger King in that parking lot, and if you've ever tried to go there for something simple, you can't. There is not a parking spot, and you cannot get in and out of that space. It's a nightmare, and that is exactly what they're setting up to do here. There's a reason why they want an exception for a drive-through. They're going to create a turnstile of cars that come into our neighborhood like this, and you should vote no on it. It's not supposed to happen. This is the wrong development. It's the wrong place for that. Please vote no.
Okay. Thank you. With that being said, anybody else? Okay. Public hearing is now closed. Board discussion?
He wanted
Oh,
some rebuttal. Yeah.
Rebuttal? I'm sorry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jerry Proctor again. As everyone knows, any development on this property or any property creates certain impacts. And, you know, what I asked the board to do is heed the words of Mr. Held at the beginning of the presentation. I happened to pick up a brochure out front as I was waiting for the chambers to open, and one of the headlines, it was a brochure about quasi-judicial hearings, was that zoning is not a popularity contest. I respect the folks that have come, but I want to break down and go through a couple of their comments and try to put some context on this with respect to them and with respect to the board. Access. This Wendy's, which as Mr. Held reminded me and the board is the only subject of this hearing, is not adding any access points. The access points have been placed and approved by the city for the shopping center. We have a development proposed in front of the board that is not adding any access points along the street, either 3rd Court or 135th Street. It's going to use and fit compatibly with the existing access points that have already been approved by the city. Where is this property? Again, the Wendy's. It's a minimum of 110 feet from the nearest single-family neighbor. And I hear that there are a number of neighbors that live on 3rd Court that are here. The closest one, who, if I got her name right, is Ms. Mercado, and if I didn't, I apologize, her property starts a minimum of 110 feet south of the Wendy's property. Not the Wendy's building, not the drive-throughs, the Wendy's portion of the property. So you have a separation here, and you have and what does that mean? You have a separation that allows the board and the city to consider more favorably these impacts, because we do have impacts. The issue of trash. We have to comply with city regulations, and we will comply, and for this restaurant and for the drive-through component. This restaurant, or the Wendy's, is not open for breakfast. They typically open at about 10 a.m. and close at about midnight. You don't have a drive-through at 2 or 3 a.m. Those are the typical hours, and I think the hours in this case for Wendy's. You don't have something in the middle of the night. Now, this is a compatible use. It's a very small building, and the drive-through component fits very neatly within the property. It doesn't spill out into the community. It doesn't add backup of traffic, backup of noise, or anything of that sort. And I illustrated earlier where the drive-through is within the property in relation to our neighbors. Just a couple of other points. Perhaps stating the obvious. There's no regulation in the city. There's no spacing requirement or limitation or prohibition on so-called fast food restaurants or restaurants in terms of their proximity to one another, their proximity to schools, or anything of that sort. This is a permitted use. And what you're going to have on this corner, if you don't have Wendy's, you're going to have a permitted commercial use. We believe that this use is compatible. It is very, very well spaced from our neighbors, the neighbors that have come tonight and the other neighbors who live and own property on Third Court and the areas around Third Court. We have no problem stipulating as a condition not only the cross-access that we discussed earlier, but the hours of operation that I just mentioned, or any other reasonable conditions that the board wishes to impose. We believe that this is compatible. We believe it's well spaced from our neighbors. And we ask, as Mr. Held indicated in the beginning, to look past while considering the comments of the community and look at the comments and the standards in the code. I'm going to pass forward for the record some of the transit-oriented development standards which we meet, but I'll go back to the standards for the drive-through. We have adequate access.
We have them up. We have it up here, sir. Thank you.
Pardon me?
We have them.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just would direct you then to the staff report. We believe that we're in compliance with the code. We don't believe, with respect to the community, that any of the testimony that has been raised illustrates issues that bring about an inconsistency with the code, and we would ask for your support. Thank you.
Thank you. And before I before I go back to the board for their discussion, Mr. Cook, we've already closed public hearings, sir. Mr. Cook, if you can, again, possibly explain to the folks who are in here, because it says C1 district, because I want to make sure that we're taking and we're making our decision objectively and not subjectively, so that when we hear the term, it is within code, it is this, and I hear people say, well, you know, it's a residential area, and can we get a brief description of what the C1 district is, and in that particular place, you know, where the boundaries are?
Can we get the PowerPoint back up, please? Thank you. So as this map illustrates, all that in the red is what we refer to as C1, which is a commercial zone district. So all that in red is commercial. So that allows for
most
retail,
type of businesses,
shopping centers, car wash, It could allow for entertainment to take place there. So to the point of the audience, the provision in the code is to allow for a drive-through by special exception. This is not specific to this zone district. This is pretty consistent throughout the city. If you have a drive-through, you need a special exception to do it, irrespective of your use. If you're going to have a drive-through associated with it, that is, if you have a pharmacy and you want to have a drive-through, you don't need a special exception to have it. Or a bank. That's just with as Mr. Held earlier stated about the Wendy's use in of itself, the restaurant use specifically is allowed by right. So that's where we are.
Thank you. All right. Board discussion.
You have any questions?
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. The attorney, your name is Mr.
Mr.
Cooks?
Proctor.
Mr. Proctor. You can stay. I just want to make sure I got your name correctly. You made some mention as far as some times. I just Googled on my phone, and all the Wendy's closed between 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning. And this was within a 5 to 7 mile radius. In addition to that, majority of the Wendy's now serve breakfast. They're opening as early as 9 o'clock in the morning and some at 6 o'clock in the morning. So when you say that the restaurant's not going to be open past a certain time, the information is just not factual. In addition to that, I know he just explained the C1 and anything can come there, whether it's a bank, whatever's requiring a drive-through, it's going to be a special exception. I utilize that LA Fitness on Biscayne Boulevard, and I tell you right now, sometimes traffic is jam-packed to get into the parking lot of LA Fitness because people are lined up trying to get some food. I mean, these reports come out, you guys give your opinions and you guys give facts, but reality is reality. I mean, you can put something on a piece of cardboard and say, yeah, this is what we hope that it will be based on the circumstances. But when it actually happens, we tend to find out that that's not the case. Fast food restaurants, and like I said, it's already been, this is just for a special exception, but just to note that fast food restaurants tend to bring other fast food restaurants. I mean, over the last, I want to say, couple years, it's Wendy's, Wingstop, and every corner it's a fast food restaurant. Although there's rules in place to control trash, trash is always a major issue. I mean, there's trash bins out there for me to put trash in. Now, whether I
do what the application is, which is
yeah, well, I'm going to stick to the application, but I mean, if we were talking about a bank, then it would be a different question. We wouldn't be talking about trash.
Yeah, it'd be 9 to 5.
It would be 9 to 5. So I think I'm pretty consistent with what we're talking about. That's pretty much all I have for now. I'll pass it on.
Me?
Go ahead.
I'm looking at this layout, and I can't figure out how anyone is going to enter on 135th Street, because it's not laid out on the map here. So could someone show me how the traffic is going to enter this place, and where is the
Only a
traffic
right
going to
turn.
exit?
Only a right turn. They could only do a right turn.
It's on this page right here. I thought it was where they were.
Right, where the,
Yeah, so it's on this page. It comes in on this side of Family Dollar.
right.
So
Madam Chair, I'd be happy to address the question.
Just point it out on
is
that
this
page.
correct? The entrance on 135th comes out on this side of Family Dollar. That's the
That's
main
correct.
entrance to the entire plaza.
That's
and
correct.
then the
And-
other exit or entrance is on Northeast 3rd
130.
Court.
That's
right?
correct.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
That's what I
correct.
thought.
All right, my next, now, is it an entrance and an exit on 135th Street as well? I mean, or is it just an entrance and everyone's?
They could only
No,
come
ri-
in?
Right turn in, right turn out, entrance
Okay,
and exit.
right turn in, right turn out. Okay, My biggest problem is the noise and the trash, and especially if you have these cars coming in and they're gonna drive right out, and I've seen it time and time again, they throw their wrappers out the window. The fact that that is a residential area on Northeast Third Court, to hear the noise when you make an order, can I help you, over and over and over again until midnight and beyond. I really have a problem with it. If we're going to even have the Wendy's there itself, is there some way we could put traffic speed bumps on that street?
County doesn't allow traffic students.
Oh, it doesn't.
On Northeast Third?
On Northeast Third?
The county does not permit speed bumps to be put in place any longer.
We've tried.
Any longer,
Any
because
They've, the ones
there
that
are
are here
streets
are
along that
grandfathered
have
in,
it.
but
Ah,
now
okay.
they're not
Well,
permitted, from my
perhaps
understanding.
can we close off this Northeast Third Court exit? I mean, is there any way?
Enforce something.
You know, the problem with that is that if we were to close off for hypothetical Northeast Third Court,
Yeah, they all have to go down.
it's Poppable, because we would be diverting the traffic then through Memorial Highway, Griffin Boulevard, and 131. And so when you consider closing off, even though this isn't a realistic option, I'm sure, because there's also county regulations against closing off streets, and that's its own.
Well, I'm not talking about
It's
closing
not
off the
closing-
street,
closing
it's
off
closing the center.
The
Close off-
exit.
Oh, the
entrance
exit, and then
exit.
just having
And then just
135
yeah.
be the
Yeah,
entrance and
yeah,
the
And they
exit.
won't be going down Third Court and throwing the
That's a-
garbage out.
Madam Chair?
All right.
Mr. McDeam,
Okay,
are
go
you
ahead.
done?
sorry.
No, I guess I'm done.
Mr. McDermott?
Through you, Madam Chair, can I ask the Attorney of Record?
Mr.
of-
Proctor?
Mr. Proctor,
Uh-huh.
two yes or no questions. One of the people mentioned the Burger King in the plaza over on Biscayne Boulevard, and it is truly a nightmare.
Oh, it is.
And, you know, this is more than just a dollar store. There is a whole line of stores behind the dollar store that are going to be full and creating a lot of traffic in and of themselves. So my question is twofold. Number one, have you done any traffic impact study on this area? That's number one. And the second question is, and I know you may not be able to answer it, but being an attorney of record, perhaps you would have an indication. If this drive-through was not passed by the Board of Adjustment tonight, will the Wendy's still open?
Through the chair, to your second question, I don't know. I highly doubt that the Wendy's would place an outlet there, but I don't know for sure. In terms of the traffic, the proposed proprietors, reviewed the traffic counts in the area, the rules of the state of Florida and the city, and they've reviewed the traffic patterns and the traffic flows and the traffic counts in their preparation for this presentation and in their preparation to have a real estate transaction and possibly buy this property. They have reviewed those items. I can't tell you that they have done a specific traffic study. The city has not required an hour-by-hour study, but they have looked at the traffic patterns and volumes in the entire surrounding area.
Thank you. Mr. Cook?
If I may, Madam Chair, this item requires review by the Development Review Committee. That is the Wendy's itself, and at that level, we do have a traffic study that they would need to submit as part of the review process before we would allow for the approval and move to the permitting for building.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I have several things. I wanted to-
Go ahead. Hold on. Ms. Hill?
Yeah, one of the things that was brought up and Michael just brought up is the fast food situation at the Ross, TJ Maxx, Walgreens, Office Max, Five Below, Burger King, Denny's, Complex. There was a time at some point where Burger King must have come to the city of North Miami to ask for a drive-through variance as well, and reassured everybody that there would be sufficient parking, that there would be no effect to the traffic flow on 125th or on Biscayne. And I'm sure that they brought their boards and all of their data. And yet when you go into that plaza, it's a nightmare. It takes hours, or it took me about 25 minutes the other day to find a parking spot.
And I'm sorry, I've been there, here,
Mhm.
and I'm not defending anybody. But to be fair to Burger King over there, the TJ Maxx and
I
the
know.
Ross,
I
they
know,
came, the
but
Five
bear with me
Below,
while I
they
finish my
came
point.
way after.
Can I finish
Okay, go
my
ahead.
point, please? My point is that this is very similar to that development in the sense that you have quite a few retail spaces and uses, and all of those do attract their own parking. And so when you're bringing a drive-through in, it exacerbates a flow in a small area, and that's what I'm very concerned about in this area. I don't quite feel that the flow that you've given us in your sheets alleviates concern that, first of all, on 135th is one of our biggest arteries in our city, and the hours of operations of this Wendy's the demand coincides with heavy traffic. So you have a lot of people coming in, coming off from work, leaving the city, going to go through this drive-through, and as somebody said, try to get in. And where's all the other cars? Well, they're waiting to turn into the parking lot. 135 is going to have a stacked flow of cars just waiting. And that's already the case now. So if you're saying it won't be the case then, you can't change what it is now by adding more stops and more delays. The other thing is that one of the criterias in evaluating this special exception is, will this special exception constitute an appropriate use in the area and will not substantially injure or detract from the use of the surrounding property or the character of the neighborhood? I am thinking critically about this, and I see a lot of negatives brought in to the neighborhood in terms of Northeast Third Court and the quality of life. But I'm not seeing those negatives mitigated by anything especially positive by bringing in this drive-through. I thought the point of it being located between two schools and really being the only food establishment in between those schools isn't exactly a desirable thing to mitigate the negatives that we're already seeing with the hours of operation and the traffic. So I'm having a hard time seeing how this would actually benefit the area. And as my fellow board members said, it's sort of a Pandora's box, because if we allow this drive-through and the next fast food company comes to us, we'll have to do the same thing. Do we as a city intend 131st, this area of 131st, to become an area with a lot of fast food options? Is that our intention? Is that what we have in our plan? And I don't see that being the case, as this is actually a highly residential area just in its nature. So for those reasons, I'm not really sure that this is the type of project that we want to bring to this area and that it would actually benefit us in any way. So thank you for your time.